Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, is a distant world full of possibility where you can weave a world while sitting around a table with your friends. This is Once Upon a Time.
Once upon a time, there was a dude, and this dude was really, really cool.
You're not making him sound cool right now.
Once Upon a Time is a storytelling card game for 2 to 6 players, where players take turns twisting a collective story using cards in their hands, as they try to achieve their hidden fairy tale ending. Let me show you guys what you get when you buy the game. You have this game that comes in a PC game-sized box. And when you open this top flap up, you get a bunch of art. So you open the game from the top of the box, and the components, there are 3 main things. You're just gonna spill out, nothing left inside this. The rulebook right here. And then the main deck of cards. So this main deck of cards are called story cards. The second deck of cards is called the ending cards, and these are all the endings that you can have in the game. The goal of this game is to achieve your hidden ending, which is a fairy tale conclusion that you want the story to ultimately resolve in, such as, so the king relented and the 2 were married, or, so he told her he was the prince and they lived happily ever after. Now, to accomplish this, you're going to use cards from your hand, such as a secret, a kitchen, or a giant, to dictate the flow of your story. You must get rid of all the story cards in your hand to achieve your specific ending. And the story and the ending actually has to make sense. For example, you can't suddenly create a queen to marry the king during the finale, or spawn a meteor to strike the earth to cause everyone to fall in despair. Since this game is a collaborative effort, the active storyteller may pass his turn to anyone if he feels like doing so. There's also a mechanic that allows for interruption, where the storyteller can get interrupted by anyone who has a card that exactly matches what is said. Or they can interrupt using these interrupt cards, which can interrupt certain categories of cards. For example, this enemy card lets you interrupt anyone after they say a character. This card, which is called This is Revealed, lets you interrupt anyone after they play an event card. We're going to do a quick demonstration right now with Daniel, who's holding that camera, also is playing as a storyteller with his hand. I have my hand right here, and let's get into the game. Once upon a time, there was this old haggly witch. Now, this witch, she may have looked evil and sinister, but she loved children, and she wanted to hang out with as many children as she could. So while she was devising her plan to lure children into her little cottage in the woods, there was this loud storm up above.
No. I got interrupt. So that storm is no longer a storm. It is instead revealed that the witch loved to kidnap those kids, not hang out with them, because she wanted to feed them to a giant. Now, this giant, she had plans. She had giant plans for this giant, all right? So the giant was actually an enemy of the king. The king that was this giant was a dude that the king also hates. So they teamed up at some point, but the giant needed to grow big and strong. He needed to feast on the souls of children. And thus, the witch would lure these kids to her witch's hut.
Pretty good demo of how to play a game. On to the pros for Once Upon a Time. The first pro is that the ending cards make it so that the game has tons of replayability. There's so much variety. They all have different stories they can tell, but there's also different ways to interpret it. Now, it is very just hilarious how people interpret these in different ways and how people are pulling the stories in different directions to try to get their win condition. As you might have seen from that example where Daniel interrupted me, challenging the storyteller is just a great way to make the game more dynamic to spark fun conversation. The cards and themes in this game are simple enough that most people will get a hang of this game. You don't really have to be a dungeon master or a GMing expert to enjoy this game. Just let the cards and your imagination freely flow. Now, for example, if we have the Prince's Madness was cured as an ending card, and the cards, a giant, a secret, and a kitchen in your hand, you could take all these cards and interpret it in at least 2 ways. What if our dashing midget prince has a secret where he is hiding his best friend, the giant Gordon Ramsay, in the palace's Hell's Kitchen? Yet Gordon Ramsay was causing him constant paranoia, and he tries to find a kitchen for the giant so he can finally be stress-free and cure his madness. Or the main character actually is the giant Gordon Ramsay who finds a secret within his own kitchen, which leads him down a glorious journey to finally cure his madness. Is true love just under the traditional kiss between a princess and knight? Or is true love the brotherly bond between two siblings? Does a cook prepare the main character's body for the feast and feed it to the bad guys? Or maybe you take the game in a cyberpunk dystopian direction where corporations control everything, there's kings instead of CEOs for some reason, and the main character is instead a techno-wizard seeking refuge from the cataclysmic climate change storms devastating this neon apocalypse. Now it's time to talk about the cons for Once Upon a Time. The first con is that the interrupting mechanic makes it too easy for someone who is really competitive to constantly interrupt. That being said, if you're playing this game to be super competitive, look elsewhere. Onto the components. The box is a little weird to take cards in and out of. I understand how it's supposed to look like a storybook, but in terms of translating to a board game format, it's just a little too big and clunky of a box. Also, the game could have used some player aids to help out newcomers, but since the game is so simple, not too big of a deal. The final con is that if you approach this game competitively and just ran on and finished the game on your own, you totally can if no one decides to interrupt you. We house ruled this so that you can only play 3 story cards a turn. But still, if you're playing the game with the sole intention to win and spitball all your cards out, you're going to have a bad time. The box itself even says that the object of the game is not just to win, but to have fun telling a story together.
It's time to score Once Upon a Time. For our recommender score, it's going to be an 8 out of 10. So this game is very, very speech reliant. That is kind of a given. You have to tell lots of stories. You have to say lots of words. Makes it in the same pool of games like Snake Oil or Cash and Guns. By the way, check out those games on our channel. We have reviewed them. You gotta get a group that can keep the story going, because otherwise it just somewhat falls flat on its face.
That being said, the game is flexible enough for you to take it in any direction, and it's so easy to set up and play, so you find yourself playing this game a lot and also quite quickly.
In addition to this, the box, while it isn't too big, it could easily be smaller. If you've seen our Snake Oil review, we've pointed out how that game was basically just a bunch of cards inside a giant cereal box. This game, very much similar thing going on, but again, the cereal box could still be a little smaller because at the end of the day, you're just holding cards in here.
If you do decide to buy this game, congratulations, but I do recommend adding a couple house rules to tweak the game. For example, for us, we gave a 3-card limit on one person's turn to avoid runaway players. You might have to do something of the sort. Small, minor house rules will make this game amazing.
And the last thing is that some people unfortunately just can't get into the magic of this game. But if there are at least, say, like 2 or 3 people in your group that absolutely are digging the storytelling role, then they absolutely can carry the game on their back and leave everyone else still just as engaged listening to a wonderfully told story of random shenanigans.
This game, Once Upon a Time, is just deserving of a good score. I'm going to have to give it a 8 out of 10. Now, for this game, I wouldn't play it all the time, and I do get tired of it quite quickly, but it is still so fun. The story potential for this game is high in every direction, and it doesn't railroad you to a certain playstyle. The game isn't too competitive to stress you out, but still has enough mechanics to technically be a game, and it feels really rewarding when you do win the game and complete the story. Ow.
Why, hello there, you glorious viewers. What do I think of Once Upon a Time? I'm going to give this game a 9 out of 10. This game is excelente. Oh my God, I absolutely adore telling a good story. I like hearing a good story. This game lets both of those things happen. The stories that I tell, that I weave, tend to be a little bit goofy, a little bit dumb. You get in all these cards, you get all these aspects, you know, these things, you throw them all together,
and you get an amazingly wondrous like mishap of a product at the end of it, and I absolutely love that. If people aren't the most talkative, aren't the most storyteller in nature, your mileage may vary, but for me at least, almost every time I've played this game, it has been an extremely fun experience. I love this game.
Games like these that challenge your creativity while still being very accessible are such a fun time. You should definitely check it out. This is Shelfside. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next review.